Hello everyone, I'm Anvi Vajpayee, the school captain. I'm immensely happy to have an interesting interactive session with our school counselor, Reverend Sister Stevina Lobo. Sister is very distinguished counselor and a PhD scholar who has got wide experience in handling student and teenage issues. Welcome, Sister, to this interactive session.
Thank you.
Let me begin by putting forward some of the questions which are usually faced by the students. Sometimes, as students, we feel self conscious and anxious during exams, especially students who are preparing for the competitive exams. They have a lot of pressure and fear. So, how can we control our anxiety during our exams?
Um, Anxiety, it's a natural emotion that comes up when we are afraid of something. So let's not name anxiety as something bad that is happening. Understand that anxiety is very normal, and it's going to come up when you are afraid of something. So rather than naming anxiety as bad, deal with it. Like, first recognize that you are getting afraid, or you are thinking of the outcome which is going to come.
Yeah.
So at times in our mind, more than appearing, we already think of the outcome. And sometimes, or even most of the time, the outcome seems negative to us. So when we assume that the outcome is going to be negative, you constantly experience a fear in you. So I would suggest that you base your I would say that why don't you, as students, why don't you try first doing your best? Like, make sure your study timetables are set, you have managed your time, your preparations are done well, and then you focus on your effort rather than your result. That would give you much more calmness, much more control of the situation, rather than imagining what is going to happen in the future. So anxiety is always about the future. It's never in the present. So the goal is always to come in the present and deal with the anxiety.
I believe that one of the reason for the anxiety is also due to the over expectation of the parents which comes. So when students are over expected by their parents, by their teachers, there is always a overburden on them and they put a lot of stress on them. So how can we deal with that?
To tell you honestly, I think our Indian parents are a lot about getting marks, and parents do put pressure. It is, I think, the reality of all the students. It's very real to the students that parents put expectation. But I believe that parents are not desiring bad.
Yeah.
What they are wanting is your success, your achievement, and at times what they have not achieved, they wish to achieve through their children. And so, knowingly or unknowingly, they do pressurize the students. So in this, I think, first understand that parents' pressure on you is not to harm you, to hurt you, or to make you feel bad about anything. They are desiring your good. So once you understand that my parents are desiring good for me, you can hold a conversation with your parents. And I think most of the time the problems are coming because there is a lack of communication between the child and the parents. Students always take it like, oh, parents are expecting. Parents are saying that my child is not doing, but the communication is not happening. So the goal here is to communicate with your parent that, Mom, I have done this and this subject is weak and I need to spend more time on this. So whatever is your side, if you explain to your parent, probably they will understand. Also, if you let your parent know your study schedule, your study time, and the subject that you're working on, that's going to make them more calmer. That's going to give them an idea that my child is studying, because they're talking about study. You also let them know your free time. You also let them know that during that free time, you would be using a mobile, or you would be doing some sort of relaxation that you are going to do. So keeping your parent informed is, I think, the best way to get rid of this pressure that you're feeling, because then the understanding is going to come from both the side, not just imagining they are expecting this and they are going to imagine that, oh, my child is not doing, or when they see you constantly on mobile, they're going to connect that, oh, you are constantly on mobile and not doing your studies enough. So I think the goal is the communication here.
Often students find themselves, if they don't fulfill their expectation of their parents, they feel like I have disappointed my parents, and they continue to feel that. So how can a student approach with this thought of disappointment?
Again, here if you say when you talk about disappointment, that means you as a student, you value what your parents are doing, you value their expectation, you love them, and that is why you want to make them proud. I think so. When you come up with that, it feels like I want to do best for my parents, I want to make them proud, I don't want to make my parents ashamed of anything. But here you have to understand, disappointing in one area, let's say study, does not mean you're disappointing them as a person. So separate your self-worth from your study schedule. I think there has never been like a child has completely fulfilled a parent's wish. Neither a parent has fulfilled completely a child's wish. So disappointments are part of life. So understand this, that your worth does not determine you as a person. So your personal worth as their child remains besides your achievement. So you don't have to try hard that will my parents be proud of me because I got good marks or because I did not get good marks. No, they love you as a child, and that's the best part of. So relationship is important. It's not that you may be not as intelligent or may be struggling with your marks, or you may be struggling with the subject. So that does not mean you are not loved by your parents. I'm sure every parent is going to agree on this, that they love you in spite of whatever happens, and they are there for you. So I know you love your parents too. So separate your self-worth from this one area of your life.
Similar to this question, one comes when parents started to compare their child. This is a very common issue that happens in India with every student. I feel that once their child have compared to the other child, look how their marks are gotten, look how sincere she is, like that all the conversation are there. As a student, we feel a lot more depressed by that. Oh, my parents are loving the other child, not me. So how can student deal with that situation? Because when comparison take place, insecurities come. So how can we deal with those insecurities?
Yeah, I think you raised a very crucial concern, and I would say St. Mary's. I think most of the students, having met many students, I think I have a real exaltation to the parents that do not compare your child, because I know they sometimes compare. This is we call reverse psychology, like they want to motivate you, but many times it doesn't come across that way, that they want to compare you so that you get motivated and you do better. I think many of our students are not coming across with that sort of feeling. When they are compared, they do feel discouraged, disappointed, and I think I am not good enough for my parent. That feeling seems to get highlighted, but I do feel that parents don't mean what you are understanding. Probably their meaning is not that. So again, here I would highlight rather communication. Insecurity is about, again, it's a feeling that you are not good enough, which you could be developing for yourself. But if you talk to your parent and say, Mom, Dad, is that what you mean, that I'm not good enough for you, or I'm not doing my best? I'm sure you're going to get a different answer. But my request to all the parents is, kindly or please do not compare your child, because the children are unique, they have their own journey that they can take on, and they are struggling, they are trying to make you proud. So understand their effort, value their effort, and celebrate their achievement. That will make them more motivated and to do better in what they are doing.
Being a student of class 12th, the transition between class 10th and 11th was a huge because the syllabus increased drastically. So, what could be the tips for the time management? Because that becomes a very crucial topic for the senior secondary student to manage all the syllabus, all the studies, along with the sports activities or the co-curricular activities that they are interested in. So, how can we improve our study skills as well as incorporate the time management skills in our timetable?
I think you raised a very crucial question. I think time management has become for all of us a game that we all have to learn, I think. So I would say it's like you guys play video game, isn't it? So when you play a video game, when your level goes higher, you don't get disappointed saying that, oh my, it's a new level and how can I win this? There's always a pressure that gets built in life. So let's be very real about it. From 10th, 11th, and then 11th to 12th, the pressure is going to get built. So say to yourself, it's something normal. This is going to come. In that way, you don't feel situation is something abnormal and you have to respond to that. When you normalize a situation, you feel you have the pressure to handle things. Second thing, when it comes to time management, it's always about a priority. So you can't say that, okay, this is my timetable and this is how I will follow. Much more than that, every day give priority to the subject that needs to be looked into. If you feel you are weak at one subject, give priority to that, so that you take away the fear which comes along with it. So when you prioritize each subject and the time that needs to be set for that subject, I think you would do better. Another thing I would say for time management is also have a clear timetable, but follow through it. It's not enough to have timetable on the paper or in the mind, no? So knowing your school timing, your coaching classes, and your travel, see how many hours you have. Divide those hours into different subjects so that you don't get into boredom, having to study one subject all through. And I think you need to write, my personal belief. Either you write or you teach someone. That's the best way to recall. And I was told in my own timing and in my own time, during our time, that when you teach, you have to pretend that you are a teacher. And if you know how to explain to someone, then you definitely know that you have got the subject. So I think these are the small skills that you can try. But I would highlight mainly on priority.
As a student, it becomes very difficult to be consistent. How can you build consistency over time? Because as talking about me, studying for about 1 week, and after the next week I feel bored to study, but still I will continue to study, but that productivity is not like the first week. So how can we maintain that throughout the year?
Again, sometimes it's okay. I think we have to make that. Sometimes we expect from us, like, like a robotic response, that I should have a same equal response in all the weeks. It's not going to happen. You're definitely going to get bored. You're definitely going to feel tired. There are days your emotions are going to take control. So normalize these things. Don't expect that you would give exact response, or don't judge yourself or label yourself too quickly. If you feel you have been tired, let's say, the next day you cover it up. The next day say to yourself, hey, I have had a good yesterday and I have enjoyed, and let me get back to it. So when you get tired and when you get bored, relaxation is important. If your brain gets that relaxation, it produces the chemicals that creates happiness in you, or happy hormones gets produced, which is needed for us. And when you have that enough relaxation, you come up with more productivity. Sometimes we think that no, the hours are important. I think smart work is important, quality is important rather than quantity.
Sister, it is seen that students, after having a long study session, they tend to take breaks and they slip into their phones. And for that, they scroll social media in a loop. And after 1 hour or 2 hour, that half-hour break turns to 2-3 hour. And after that, they have guilt. So how can we stop this habit? And can you also suggest alternative habit that we could include in our study breaks so that we can refresh ourselves for a longer study session?
I think your question is not just students who are struggling. I think we as adults, many of us are struggling with this social media stuff. No, so sometimes I think like social media we have to treat like a junk food. You know, too much of it can be harmful to us. So here the understanding is not to completely give away, but to manage. If you've learned to manage, then I think it won't bring that guilt, it won't bring that disappointment. So I would say that for the students especially do first what is the hard part.
Yeah.
If you know that you want to watch something or you have the urge to watch, then do the study which is more hard, or do the subject you know that. So no matter what happens, I am going to first finish that. Only then my relaxation I would take it to social media. Now when it comes to managing social media, you have to help yourself. If you say it will happen, it is happening, you are saying the control is not in you. So in order to get a control, either you set a timer that, after half an hour a bell rings, and once the bell rings or the alarm rings, I am going to put down. And you put it such a way that you avoid completely the temptation. If it's, let's say the phone is in the same room and you're going to hear constantly the notification, your brain is going to tell you, okay, let's look at it. So the best is you turn off all the notification or turn off your phone and keep it out of reach, completely out of reach. And you do your study. When you do your study, then probably you say to yourself like, okay, in reward, if I do this, in reward, I will take and watch something that I can take it extra time, but I'm not going to get up until I finish. So I would say a little being hard on yourself works better.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes someone keeps a gunshot on you, you will do. So sometimes you have to create do or die kind of a situation where you say, no, I'm not going to get up until I finish this. So that's how you can help yourself. I would say to all the students, help yourself. The day you realize something is not helping you, turn back. Our brain is also designed in such a way that the day we say that, no, this is I don't want to do, you can change. There isn't anything fixed that, okay, it can't be changed. So alternative healthy habits which you are talking about, if you know that if you pick a phone during this break and you're going to go longer hours, make that alternative into, let's say, drinking water or doing some sort of 10 minutes exercise, which will do better to your brain. And then when you know you have a longer time of relaxation, then you take your phone. That's how I think you could manage.
Sometimes it is seen that students can't really share their thoughts with their parents. In some cases, parents are supportive, they understand their child. But in many of the cases, parents can't really relate with the feelings of their child. So as a result, students find themselves confusing and they don't have anyone to share with, even when they're surrounded by people. So how can we deal with this kind of situation?
So what you basically mean is a type of a loneliness?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this increase of media and mobile, I think loneliness is creeping in. So here I think what I understand is maybe students are trying to identify the connection rather than the loneliness term as such. So sometimes it happens where I feel connected more. as you are growing up, it is very natural, and that you are not going to feel that connected to your parents. And again, here to parents, I would say, please don't be alarmed that my child is not sharing. An adolescent stage is such that peer groups are more relatable. Peer groups feel more compatible. So it's not that they are going away from you, but it's just that they want to feel more connected. And parents' first question to their child is, did you study? I think something that the students don't wish to hear. They wish to hear something more. So I think parents can switch the conversation as to how was your day, how you have been, how are you doing. That sort of will make more engagement. To students, I would say, if there is a loneliness, ask yourself, what am I actually looking for? Deep connections. With whom? Which friend of mine? So rather than generalizing and looking at it as a big chunk like I am lonely, I don't have anyone, this sort of thoughts would make you more getting into negative feelings. So ask yourself, which friend of mine I wish to relate to, what sort of connection I wish to build, how deep I want to go into this friendship or into this relationship. And when you develop certain friendship, do not idealize the person. Like, this friend is going to be with me all my life, or we have been from third standard to fourth standard together, so now we will be together all life. People change, and when the change happens and you are not ready to deal with the change, that's where you feel betrayed, you feel lonely, you feel you have no one. So be prepared that human beings change. It's a reality. So I think be prepared for that, but identify the people you want to have connections with and try to establish that.
As a student of 12th, I've seen many of my friends who are still confused about what career they should choose. Because under pressure of their family, they have taken the streams which they are not interested in. They want to do much more than that, but still they are confused to what to do. So how can a student choose the right path for their careers and build a good future? What could be the tips for them?
Okay, I think I would like to make the correction. Right, the word right. No, sometimes we get focused on, will it be a right career? Will it be, it's the right choice? Sometimes, while we grow up, I would say that honestly speaking, people change career. People do change career. I can give my own example to this. But I would say that, see, when you have chosen a stream, let's say of your parents' liking, it's possible that you do go ahead with it and later you might change. That's possible. Otherwise, first establish what is your interest, what do you like most, and what you are interested in. So sometimes our students here nowadays have more of passion. There are passions like music, dancing, singing, but the question comes of stability.
Yeah.
So you need to balance, I think, passion and your stability. So some things you can do for your passion, which are good and which need not be done right now. Either you get stabilized in your career. What I mean stability is financial stability. So once you have that, you can pursue your passion. So do not feel that, if I do this, will I give up on my passions? Your passion is something that you can easily develop even later on. I understand many of the parents never give you an option which are challenging, so to say. They prefer, or they think the safest is the traditional way of choosing your career, and which is according to them right. Financial stability would give you sometimes, or most of the time, having a financial stability can fund to your passion as well. So I think you need to make choice as to what makes you happy, what you are interested in, and what you value most. So that way it will help you. I will also say that do more of a research. That that helps, because when you do research, you understand what people are doing, how it is being done. Talk to some professionals. Here I will also suggest that why not, there are career counseling are available, tests are available. Take that. If you feel you are not able to get into the right choice, do that, and that also helps. But remember, people do change career. And as I said, my example, I had been a professional photographer and video editor, and today here I am doing a counseling. So it's possible to change your career.
Thank you, sister, for this interactive session. We will definitely adhere to your advices. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you so much. Thank you to St. Mary's for inviting.